I'm Isabella Vance, 36, and I am currently lying on my family's marble patio with a fractured skull because I ruined my sister's aesthetic. She didn't use a weapon. She used a frozen ice cream cake, swinging it like a baseball bat directly into my face just for walking into her live stream frame. As blood mixes with the vanilla frosting blinding my left eye, I look up expecting horror. Instead, Alyssa is holding her phone over my bleeding body, checking her metrics and laughing. Finally, some real engagement. Before I tell you what the X-ray revealed the next morning, and the secret my grandmother hid in the walls of that house, drop a comment, and let me know where you're watching from and what time it is for you right now. I want to see how far this story travels. My mother, Danielle, rushed across the patio, her heels clicking sharply against the marble. For a split second, the child inside me thought she was coming to help. I thought she saw the blood pouring down my face and felt a mother's instinct. I was wrong. She didn't look at my wound. She looked at the table. "Get a towel," she screamed at a passing waiter. "This is Italian silk. If that blood sets, the tablecloth is ruined." She turned to me, her eyes cold and hard as diamonds. "Why are you always so clumsy?" "Isabella," she hissed, loud enough for the nearest guests to hear. "You are ruining the vibe. Go inside before anyone else sees you." I stood up. The world tilted on its axis, gray spots dancing in my vision. I didn't argue. I didn't scream. I walked to my room, wiped the frosting and blood from my eyes, and sat on the edge of my bed. People ask why I stayed. Why I let them treat me like a stain on their perfect life for 36 years. They don't understand the invisible chain of the survivor. When you are raised in a cage, you don't see the open door as freedom. You see it as a trap. You are conditioned to believe that the outside world is dangerous, and the only safety is in the shadow of your tormentor. I believed my mother's narrative because it was the only reality I had ever known. I believed I was clumsy. I believed I was difficult. I believed I deserved the silence. That night, I sat in the dark, touching the swelling on my forehead, telling myself it was my fault for walking into the frame. But pain has a way of cutting through conditioning. By morning, the headache wasn't just a throb, it was a siren. I couldn't see straight out of my left eye. I drove myself to the emergency room, gripping the steering wheel to keep my hands from shaking. I didn't tell anyone I was leaving. The house was quiet, sleeping off the champagne and the cruelty. Dr. Eris was an older man with wire-rimmed glasses and hands that didn't tremble. He ordered a CT scan and a full skeletal series. When he came back into the exam room, he didn't have the polite, detached air of a busy physician. He looked grim. He slapped the films up on the light box. "You have a hairline fracture above the left orbit," he said, pointing to the crack in my skull, consistent with blunt force trauma. "From last night?" He paused, tapping a different image, my left forearm and the small bones of my right hand. "But that is not what concerns me, Isabella." He traced the ghostly white lines that scarred the bone. "These are spiral fractures, healed, but clear. And here, a crush injury to the metacarpal." He turned to face me. "Bones don't break like this when you trip, Isabella. Spiral fractures happen when a limb is twisted violently. Crush injuries happen when a hand is stomped on or slammed in a door. These are defensive wounds." He looked me dead in the eye. "Who told you these were accidents?" The question hung in the cold, antiseptic air. Suddenly, the memories flooded back, stripped of my mother's narration. I saw Alyssa twisting my arm because I touched her doll. "You fell." I saw the car door slamming on my fingers. "You weren't looking." I saw the push down the stairs. "You slipped." They weren't accidents. They were assaults. And I hadn't been clumsy. I had been battered. The invisible chain snapped. "I need to file a police report." "Doctor," Eris said quietly, "this is mandatory reporting." I looked at the X-ray, the map of my pain. "Do it," I said. "File it." I drove back to Emerald Lake with the police report folded in my glove compartment. I intended to pack a bag and leave forever. But when I punched my code into the main gate, the keypad flashed red. Access denied. My phone buzzed. A notification from my bank app. Account frozen. Suspicious activity. I tried my credit cards. Declined. In the span of a 2-hour hospital visit, my family had erased my digital existence. The side gate was unlocked. I walked up the long driveway, my head throbbing in rhythm with my heartbeat. They were waiting for me in the library. My mother, Danielle, sat in a high-backed velvet chair, sipping herbal tea. Alyssa was pacing by the fireplace, scrolling through her phone, looking fresh and radiant, as if she hadn't cracked my skull open 12 hours ago. I stood in the doorway, smelling of antiseptic and dried blood. "We did it for your own safety, Isabella," my mother said. Her voice wasn't angry. It was soft, pitying. It was the terrifying voice of a woman who believes her own lies. "Your outburst last night, bleeding all over the guests, causing a scene. It was a cry for help." "I didn't cause a scene," I said, my voice raspy. "Alyssa assaulted me." Alyssa stopped pacing. She looked at me with genuine confusion. "I was helping you content creation. You ruined the shot. And now you're making up stories about assaults. This is exactly why we froze the accounts." They laid the paperwork on the mahogany desk. "A power of attorney. A voluntary commitment to a wellness facility. You are clearly unwell," my mother continued. "You make 6 figures. Yet you wear clothes from 5 years ago. You spend your weekends alone. You hoard your money like a dragon, while your sister struggles to launch her brand. That is not frugality, Isabella. It is mental illness. It is financial hoarding. This is the trap of normalizing cruelty. To an outsider." My mother sounded concerned. To me, the logic was suffocating but familiar. She didn't see a daughter who had been battered. She saw a defective appliance that was refusing to function. In her mind, my autonomy was a symptom of insanity. If I didn't exist solely to fund their lifestyle and reflect their image, then I must be broken. She wasn't trying to hurt me. She was trying to fix the problem so the machine would start dispensing cash again. "If you don't sign," Alyssa said, checking her nails, "we'll have you involuntarily committed. Mom has already spoken to Dr. Evans. He agrees that your behavior, the delusions of persecution, the hoarding is dangerous." I looked at the papers. If I fought them now, shouting and screaming, I would prove their point. I would be the hysterical, unstable spinster they painted me to be. I needed to be colder. I needed to be the architect. I picked up the pen. My hand didn't shake. "I need time to process this," I said, my voice flat. "I'll sign, but I need to pack some things first." My mother smiled, relieved. "Of course, darling. We just want what is best for you." I walked out of the library. I didn't go to my room. I went to the back garden, climbed the trellis I used to use as a child to escape their parties, and ran toward the woods. I wasn't going to a wellness facility. I was going to the one person they had exiled for telling the truth. I ran until my lungs burned and the manicured lawns of Emerald Lake gave way to the tangled undergrowth of the state forest. I didn't stop until I reached the small, rusted diner on the edge of the highway. The one place my mother wouldn't be caught dead in. Aunt Natasha was waiting in the back booth. She looked exactly as I remembered from the forbidden photos: wild gray hair, paint-stained fingers, and eyes that saw too much. She didn't hug me. She looked at the bandage on my forehead and slid a menu across the table. "They finally broke you," she said. It wasn't a question. "They tried," I corrected. "I need help. Natasha, they froze my accounts. They're trying to commit me." She nodded, unsurprised. Danielle always did prefer a clean narrative to a messy human being. She exiled me because I wouldn't stop painting the things she wanted to hide. Now she wants to erase you because you stopped paying for the paint. She reached under the table and pulled out a heavy, wooden box. It smelled of lavender and old cedar. Your grandmother Rose gave me this 3 days before she died. She made me promise to keep it until you were ready to burn it all down. I opened the latch. Inside was a single, yellowed envelope and a small, silver digital voice recorder. I opened the envelope first. It was a deed of trust, dated 3 years ago. Transfer on death. My eyes scanned the legal jargon, my heart pounding against my ribs. Grandma Rose hadn't left the estate to my mother. She had transferred it directly to me. I own Emerald Lake, I whispered. I've owned it for 3 years. And Danielle knows it, Natasha said. Why do you think she's so desperate to control you? She's been living in your house, spending your inheritance, terrified that one day you'd check the public records. I picked up the voice recorder. It was small, innocuous. What is this? Rose was paranoid at the end, Natasha said. Or maybe just observant. She hid these recorders all over the house. This one was taped under the dining room table. She told me it captured a conversation between your mother and Alyssa 2 weeks ago. I haven't listened to it. She said that was for you. I held the device in my palm. It felt heavy, like a weapon. I had come looking for shelter. I had found an arsenal. They think I'm weak, I said, closing the box. They think I'm the quiet one who just takes it. Natasha smiled. A sharp, dangerous expression. The quiet ones are the ones who hear everything. Isabella, go home. Not to pack. To evict. I left the diner with the box tucked under my arm. The headache was gone, replaced by a cold, crystalline clarity. I wasn't going to run. I was going to finish what my grandmother started. I sat in my car, parked on a service road a mile from the diner. The rain drummed against the roof, a rhythmic counterpoint to the silence inside the vehicle. I plugged the small silver recorder into my laptop and put on my headphones. The file was dated 14 days ago. I pressed play. The audio was crisp. Grandma Rose had bought high-quality equipment. I need $250,000 by the 1st of the month. Mom. Alyssa's voice filled my headspace. She sounded frantic. Not the polished influencer she played on screens. The venue is suing for the breach of contract. And the spiritual retreat center in Bali is threatening to go to the press about the unpaid bills. If that gets out, my brand is dead. Calm down, darling. My mother's voice soothed. We will handle it. How? You're tapped out. Dad is useless. We have Isabella. She won't give it to me. Alyssa spat. I asked her for a loan last week. She gave me a lecture on compound interest. She is hoarding that money. Mom, it's sick. She sits on a fortune and wears sweaters she bought 5 years ago. It's mental illness. I know. Danielle sighed. It is pathological. She doesn't know how to be part of this family. She is defective. I listened, my hand hovering over the pause button. This is the narcissist's delusion of power. To my mother and sister. My money was not my private property. It was a family resource that I was wrongfully withholding. In their twisted moral architecture, my frugality was not a choice. It was theft. They truly believed that by not funding Alyssa's delusions, I was the one harming the family. To a narcissist, people are not individuals. They are appliances. I was a toaster that refused to toast. A lamp that wouldn't turn on. And when an appliance is broken, you don't ask it for permission. You unplug it. You fix it. Or you scrap it. Dr. Evans agrees with me. Danielle continued on the recording. He says that extreme financial hoarding, social withdrawal, and delusions of persecution are grounds for a temporary conservatorship. If we can trigger a public episode prove she is a danger to herself, we can get emergency custody of her assets. Like at the party, Alyssa asked, her voice brightening. Exactly. We provoke her. Make her break in front of witnesses. Once she's committed, I become her guardian. We liquidate her assets. Clear your debts. and control the estate. Is she even crazy? Alyssa asked. Does it matter? Danielle replied coldly. She's useless like this. We're doing her a favor spending money she's too sick to enjoy. They laughed. I removed the headphones. The grief I'd carried for 36 years vanished, replaced by clarity. This wasn't cruelty, it was a criminal plan to erase me for cash. I looked at the deed, the assault report, and the recorder. I wasn't running. When my mother texted dinner tonight, "Dr. Evans will be here. Let us help you," I replied, "I'll be there." Emerald Lake was staged like a trial. My mother, Alyssa, Dr. Evans, the family lawyer, all waiting. I wore a black suit, hair pulled tight, bandage visible. I didn't take the weak chair they'd left for me. I sat opposite my mother. "I dressed up for your eviction," I said, setting a wooden box on the table. They threatened commitment papers. "Police. 10 minutes. "Perfect," I said. I opened the box and displayed the deed on the wall screen. Transfer on death. Beneficiary, Isabella. 3 years old. "You don't own this house," I said. "I do. You're squatters." Before they could recover, I played the recording. My mother's voice filled the room. "Does it matter if she's crazy? She's useless to us." The door opened. Police entered. Alyssa was arrested for assault and documented abuse. Her screams followed her out. I slid an eviction notice to my mother. 72 hours. 6 months later, Emerald Lake was transformed. The marble was gone. A wildflower garden replaced it. The guest wing became the Rose Foundation, teaching women how to escape financial and psychological control. Alyssa awaited trial. My mother lived quietly, abandoned by the world she chose over her child. For the first time, silence felt like peace. People ask if I regret it. Cutting them off didn't leave a hole. It removed the knife. I published my final words online. You are not a load-bearing wall. You are a person, and you are allowed to let the house collapse